Mike, I think Buffalo's interesting this week because that would be a potential spot for me, but I'll give you the floor. If he keeps going, where do you think would be a good landing spot for him?
So two spots came to mind for me, Mike. One is Chicago, who's been a disaster. And look, they haven't had the touch with quarterbacks either. So I'm not sure they're necessarily going to want to go to Belichick with his touch around quarterbacks most recently, of course, prior to Tom Brady as well. And the other one that makes a lot of sense to me is the Washington Commanders. Brand new owner, spent $6-point-something billion on the football team. He's got Riverboat Ron Rivera, who's not a riverboat gambler at all. That team is very bland. There's some great pieces on defense. The offense, Sam Howell's a young quarterback. Eric Bieniemy's there as the offensive coordinator. That makes a lot of sense to me, not just for the name. That franchise obviously once was a great franchise and is looking to rebuild, but also because it's on the East Coast. That's kind of an easy flight. Washington, up to Boston, over to Nantucket. Everything's great.
I got another one.
That's kind of where he's from, anyway.
Yeah, I wonder if you guys, how you feel about the Los Angeles Chargers. Just the other night, I was in here watching that Monday night game, and Mike Felger used it as his bugging last night. Brandon Staley, once again, giving away points. They got a lot of talent. You feel like they never realized their talent. They had a huge lead in their playoff game last year, Mike, against Jacksonville. They blew that. They just don't get it together. It seems like a coach like Bill Belichick in Los Angeles would bring that franchise a lot of credibility.
Let me tell you real quick, Mike, before I toss it back to you, and that is I put the candidates or the prospective teams in two buckets. One bucket are teams like the Commanders, the Bears. I don't know if the Panthers are on that list, but teams that need a total overhaul that will turn everything over to Bill. He could probably run the personnel department. He could be the GM. It's a slow rebuild because they're not close to contending, and that would be a slow build where Bill has total control and he just takes over the thing. Then there's other teams that have good quarterbacks. They're knocking at the door of really being champions, and Bill just has to come in and coach, work with the personnel people, and put them over the top. And
give them a push.
That team, to me, those teams, Dallas, the Chargers, maybe Buffalo, and I think those kind of teams, Mike, would be far more interesting to me. I'm not interested in watching Bill do a slow rebuild and take over building. I want to see him step into a team that's a coach away and see if he can put him over the top.
Well, it's interesting to think about that, right? You're talking about the teams that have that slow rebuild. Bill's going to be 72 years old, and what over the last 4 or 5 years has given you the confidence that he can, in fact, rebuild this thing from scratch? This is the modern NFL. He's an older guy. He's still sort of set in his ways. I know he's made some modifications to it, but as Michael Holley was just talking about, they haven't responded to him. He talks about restarting, and then they have 10 penalties, including 2 in the first drive, 3 in the final 2 minutes. They're still making the same boneheaded plays. He can't get the quarterback on the same page to buy into what he's doing. The quarterback doesn't trust him. He doesn't trust the quarterback. So I want to turn over my franchise to that. As for the other teams, the interesting thing here is the Chargers don't like to pay their coaches, and we know Jerry Jones doesn't like to pay his coaches either. So while that makes some sense because he wants to win now and they maybe have the talent to win now, can they come to agreement?
I got the answer there.
Terms there.
It's called offset language.
Offset, there it is.
Offset language.
Yep.
If the Kraps are on the hook, if the Patriots owe him $25 a year, they could swing a deal, or Jerry could say, all right, I'll pay you 12, they owe you 13, or anywhere in between, and that's how that gets done. One more thing. The Patriots had 20 total players on their injury report today. 6 did not practice, and 14 were limited. Left tackle Trent Brown, safety Jabril Peppers, and center David Andrews among the unexpected additions. Mike, this feels a little heavy. Is there something afoot here? Do you have any sort of hints or thoughts, conspiracy theories?
Yeah, so I wrote this for Boston Sports Journal as soon as that information came out, and I said, doesn't it make you immediately a little bit cynical about what's going on here? We've seen some big numbers over the years on the injury report. I've never seen 20. I think I've seen 14 or 16 as the most ever. All of a sudden, there's 20 guys on this list. You don't think that maybe Bill Belichick, who's 1-5, is thinking to himself, when I go talk to Robert, I've already lost Judon, probably for the year, Gonzalez certainly for the year, and now, hey, Robert, how was I supposed to win with this team? Paul Brown couldn't win with this team. Paul Brown, of course, being Bill Belichick's favorite coach of all time. There's no way I can win with this. Give me one more chance. Let me get rid of the quarterback, and I'll prove to you that I'm still that guy.
All right, you don't think it has anything to do with the players themselves? Some might think, hey, we're 1-5. Why should I go out there when I'm a little banged up? Why am I risking my career for a team that's going nowhere?
Oh, I'm sure that's a real possibility too. But again, doesn't that go back to the message that the coach is sending and not being received by his players? I don't know how, Michael Holley, you can say that he's still a top 10 coach when his team has already tuned him out. He's got a bunch of mercenaries there who are looking around going, I don't want to do this for this guy. I came here for the money, and I thought I was going to win. Well, I got the money, most of it, but we're not winning.
Maybe it doesn't say so much about Belichick in the top 10. Maybe it's the top 10 itself. When you start naming the 10 and you get to 7, 8, 9, you start questioning yourself. You say, do I really want to do this? Try it. A little exercise. Try to exercise. I did it before the show, and I didn't feel great.
Do it at home on your own, kids. It's a lot of fun. Tune in to NBC Sports Boston on weeknights for a 6 o'clock kickoff. We'll bring a different football show each night. It's presented by Shaw's, perfecting the art of fresh.